Hi, my name is Jessie Fairbanks, and I am a features programmer for Doc NYC. I'm very pleased to welcome the director, Mo Scarpelli, to talk about her film, El Father Plays Himself. We also have one of the main subjects of the film, the director of the film within the film, Jorge Thielen Armand. Welcome, Jorge, and welcome, Mo.
Hi.
Hi. Very excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for sharing El Father Plays Himself with the Doc NYC audience. This is a fascinating film that is so deeply personal to you, Jorge, and to your father, and also deeply personal to you, Mo, because of your experience with Jorge and your guys' relationship and the fact that, you're observing so much behind the scenes. I'd just like to kind of start from the beginning. El Father Plays Himself chronicles the production of Jorge's narrative film, which is set in Venezuela, Amazon. Jorge, as everyone knows, cast his father, who is a non-actor, to play the leading role. And so my question, Mo, to you is, what motivated you to make this film and to shoot it yourself? Kind of digging into why do we tell the stories that we tell, and at what cost? Because as I mentioned, this was quite a personal project.
Yeah, so I wanted to go to Venezuela with Jorge. We're in a relationship. He was going to make a film. I make films, and I know they change you a lot. I really wanted to go and meet his family, but also be there for the process of his making his film, to get to know him better and also be kind of perched on a fiction film set, because while I've made hybrid documentaries, I've never had a set with a fiction film or anything. So I was curious, and then I said I would come along, and Jorge was like, okay, you're gonna die of boredom. You can't just bring a book. You have to, do you wanna do something on the crew? Do you wanna keep yourself busy some way? And I don't know. And he's like, well, he was looking for someone to make a making of, or behind the scenes, do a behind the scene video of the film. So he offered that to me, and then the more we started talking about it, the more excited I got about it. And initially I was mostly interested in this idea that his father would have to play a version of himself that was written by his son, who left Venezuela and hasn't seen him he gets to see him when he comes back to make films. But I kind of started to see I'm always looking for scenarios, environments where external things make somebody face their own self. And this sounded like the perfect kind of thing. I mean, cinema, I know, makes people face the representation of themselves when they watch it. I mean, my films as documentaries do that when the characters see them. What is it like to play that in the film? What is it like to be at the whims of kind of your son's control in that way? And also, what does that do to the relationship? Because I met Jorge, the first time we met even, he talked about his father and how he was going to make this film. And I remember thinking, I had a lot of questions about what's it like to be far away from your father, to use films to go and hang out with your father. What does that do to the relationship? How does it bring you together? How does it maybe push you apart? So anyway, those things were all lurking, but I kind of went on the pretense of making a making of. And then Jorge trusted me a lot. And when I decided, it was okay, I don't really care about the camera being on, or whether you guys get the shot or whether the film gets made. I care about really obsessing what's happening with you and your dad, and whether you guys are going to make it through this, and how you're going to evolve, and all the questions that the film raises for your relationship and love between men, all these things. And he's like, okay, go for that too. Just do whatever. So yeah, and I also realized that the film was going to be much more about fathers. Kind of when I met Father and I saw how much he was invested in his process. He wasn't just a guy who showed up and read the lines and did the script. No, his process is much more personal and intuitive and improvised. And so it kind of threw him for a loop sometimes, but Father also was really ready to go there and get something out of being himself in Jorge's movie that maybe some other people wouldn't be kind of existentially or emotionally ready for.
Yeah, I encourage all of our Doc NYC audience to check out at least the trailer for the film within the film of El Father Plays Himself, which is Jorge's final product, La Fortaleza, which premiered at Rotterdam earlier this year, Jorge. So congratulations. It's just amazing that two projects have come out of this, and seeing the final product versus what Mo was able to capture is fascinating.
Yeah, because you don't see much in this film about what his
No,
film looks like
you
until,
do, but
yeah.
yeah, it's amazing to see much more of Jorge's artistic vision, because so much of this is focused on the actual process and like the structure and the approach to production. You know, so Jorge, for you, you know, how did you react to like the final version of All Father Plays Himself? Because there's some, you know, there's some very private and tender moments, and it's, you know, you guys have a very intense bond. And a second part to that is, how did your father react to both of the films?
Well, let me start by saying that, I mean, I knew that the moment, like we did, that Mo decided to make this film and she was in it, making it, that there was, because we have a relationship and because she has a relationship with my dad as her father-in-law, it kind of was all in, you know. I felt like I was always with a rifle that could shoot the bullet towards me, you know, everyone, you know. So it was very kind of, everyone had so many stakes in it, you know. So but I knew that Mo, I trusted her, and I also knew that what she had on the line, which is my relationship, our relationship, her relationship with my dad. So she was under the same amount of pressure. And then when seeing the final movie, I mean, I knew that what she was up to. I knew that she was making this film more focused on what she did it. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was tough. You know, it was tough to see myself in there being ruthless sometimes. You know, I learned a lot about myself. You know, seeing how much I convince people just through silence, or how much pressure that creates on people. And sometimes it's not that I do it on purpose, it's just that I don't know the answer to things, but I don't produce any sounds out of my mouth, so people fill in the blank or something. And I saw how much pressure that created for my dad and for Rodrigo, my cinematographer. Um, but I was also really, really, really glad, you know, that we did this, because I made La Fortaleza because I wanted to immortalize the image of my dad. I wanted to spend time with my dad. It's part of creating a family album or a family archive, because I feel like I lost all that family structure when I left Venezuela. So making the films have been a vehicle to go back. And then seeing this is, for me, it's also part of that. It's the image of me and my dad doing something that I always keep in my heart. So that was, so I really treasure that as that. Um, in terms of my dad's reaction watching the films, we showed him the films back to back in a studio in Caracas. First, he watched La Fortaleza, and he was very kind of, because I didn't give him the script of La Fortaleza when we shot the film. Like we shot chronologically, and he was discovering the scenes day by day, moment by moment. And so he was piecing the film together in his mind, you know, the whole time. And the whole time we were in post-production, when he watched the final product, he was like, oh, like he saw that we moved things around in the edit, and he was really trying to like relive the experience of shooting it. And he was complaining to me, oh, why did you only keep like 5 seconds of this beautiful landscape that we went and we almost died going there, and we spent days getting that shot, and you just put 5 seconds. And he had a lot of fun, and yeah. But then when he watched Mo's film, he was like this, you know, he was like,
We were like gripping hands.
because I think that, you know, he knew, like, he knew what he got himself into, you know, he knew that he was gonna see that in a way. But at the same time, he never doubted Mo, you know, he never said stop, you know, stop filming that, or don't film this. He never even looked at her camera, you know, he was super on board with her making that film, more than making the film with me,
Sometimes.
strangely. And But I think also has to do with what I was saying before about the rifles, you know, like he had his relationship with his son and with his daughter-in-law on the line, you know. So there was just incredible triangle of pressure. And I think he also never, he knows he can get like that when he drinks. He knows he can get like that when he gets angry. But you know, he can always wake up the next day and be like, oh well, that was a crazy night, you know. And this was what I think the first time to see my face as his son living that, you know. And I think that really kind of changed something in him, you know. So it was very emotional, you know. And then when he was at the premiere of La Fortaleza, he was very happy, you know, very proud, because everyone said, oh, you're such a great actor. And he really got to enjoy the movie as a movie, and saw that other people were just watching a movie, you know, even though he had so many fears about how personal all of this is, you know. But ultimately, people don't know exactly like where the line of reality and fiction is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's an incredibly bold project, the two of these films together, and the amount of risk that you and your father in particular take in exploring your relationship in front of the camera and through La Fortaleza is not to be underestimated. And so I imagine that viewing with him was quite tense. Although I did see an interview that he did at Rotterdam, and he seemed to have recovered. He seemed to have been very pleased with the final product. So congratulations to you. Mo, a question for you. You know, you mentioned the fact that you've done kind of hybrid documentaries before, and we had Mbessa, your last film at Doc NYC last year. My question is, you know, how did you determine the visual language of this film? Like, how did you create rules about when you were going to shoot and when you were not going to film, and when you were going to stay on Jorge's face versus watching father? Talk to us a little bit about your process.
Yeah, I think this film taught me, I thought that Mbessa taught me, well, it's stages and they're very different films, but Mbessa really did teach me a lot about shooting intuitively. But I had more room to play. I had more room we had all day with a kid who does the same thing every hour, you know, and he was looking for adventure too. So we kind of we constructed together, and we came on with these adventures we'd go on together, kind of. Or he would come up with one and I'd follow him, but it was a little more, I had a little more control. I had zero control with this one in terms of the schedule. I knew what their schedule was going to be. I knew, well, okay, I don't say zero control. I had zero control of schedule or timing or getting someone to do something that I would think they should do, which I'll talk about more in a minute, was like a beautiful limit. I think that is really, really good for me and really restored my belief in observational filmmaking, that I couldn't construct, that I had to just go with the flow, and that I had to shoot intuitively was big. But I had zero control, but I had 100% access. So sometimes that's precious, precious gift. I mean, anyone who's watching this as a filmmaker like knows that is really what you're striving for. Yes, you can get a pretty shot, but the most important thing, and what translates through a camera when it's a really good film, is this total trust in you to shoot it. And then you get these things that are incredible because they're really honest. And I had that from the start, because father trusted Jorge, he started to trust me very quickly, and they trusted each other. And so they were so concerned with each other that most of the time, it's not like they forgot necessarily, I can't say maybe forgot I was there, but they definitely were like, she's watching, but she's allowed to watch because she's one of us, is how it felt, you know? And so because of that, it meant that everything I shot could be dictated by my intuition about how close I was feeling to them and how close I resonated with them. So there's moments in the film where I drift very close to father. And it's because I'm really trying to get into his head, and because I really feel there with him. And I'm over there with him while Jorge's over there and he's being, why are they? You know, and he's yelling at Jorge, and I'm over here with him like, you're right, man. And then I'm like over here with Jorge. You know, it's like, but I could just switch between because I had total trust. I was never worried really about the fact that I would take someone's side. It never felt like I was taking someone's side. It always felt I was just kind of oscillating between these two people who were, it's like the villain of all of it was, and also the savior was this film they were making. So that was enough to distract us all from trying to hold it together. And in the meantime, yeah, I learned so much in the shooting and in the editing, because I watched the footage with my editor, who's super intuitive and really brilliant, and just really on my page about the world and perspective. And rewatching footage, really, it's like we wouldn't talk, we would just watch like rushes from certain days, and I would be like, I know exactly how I felt on that day because I shot exactly how I felt, which is something that's really kind of hard to do when you get distracted by other ideas you have or other things to do. So this was a really, really intuitive kind of cinematography experiment that I don't know how I'll duplicate again, but I miss it like all the time. I'm like, when am I gonna make something like that again? I don't know. I guess I could make.
I mean, I've never seen anything like this. So, you know, you guys were breaking new ground there. And thank you for kind of delving into a little bit of the efficacy of filmmaking, because obviously this was quite complicated, and especially when father is drinking and when father, you see him on screen processing other people's perceptions of him, especially yours, Jorge, but you know, that, you know, so much rests on his shoulders. And so I think you did an incredible job of sticking close to him and helping us understand his psychological journey, in addition to Jorge's, as part of this film within a film. So we are running out of time. Unfortunately, there's so many questions that I could ask about this. It is such a beautiful, layered, nuanced film, and you know, congratulations to both of you and to Father for being willing to put yourself out there and to take the risk. I think if you guys can make these two films as a family and stay a family, then anything is possible for you guys. So just to close things off, you know, I just want to thank the director of El Father Plays Himself, Mo Scarpelli, for joining us, and for the main subject and the director of the film within the film, La Fortaleza, Jorge Thielen Armand. Thank you so much for sharing your film with the Doc NYC audience.
Thank you.